Hey everybody, we're going to do a pretty resin tray today. I'm going to go ahead and mix my resin up and then we'll do all the good stuff afterwards. Be sure to use your gloves, glasses or goggles, mask, full face mask, something to protect yourself, ventilation, open windows as much as possible. I've got a big 13-inch tray mold that will hold probably at least 32 ounces. I think I'm going to do about 22, and 2 of those ounces will go into coasters that are over on the side that I'll be doing the same pattern with. We're just going to finish this bottle up. How about that? So that's 11 right there. That's part B first. Part A is going to come out a lot slower because it's like corn syrup. It'll take me a minute. So I'm going to put my timer on my phone on 6 minutes and hit start. When you're mixing, it's going to start out cloudy. You don't have to go fast. It's not a race. Just be consistent. Go around the edges. You can go back and forth. Try to keep your stick in the resin as much as possible to get as least amount of bubbles as possible. So I'm going to fast forward. I'm going to actually turn off the camera and I'll be back at 6 minutes. Okay, so now I'm going to hit my stopwatch and hit start, and we're going to keep an eye on the time. That's important. Okay, so I've got a little shot glass, an ounce size maybe, and I'm going to use Glitter Makes It Heavenly Gates, which is kind of silvery holographic. Now I don't need a lot. This is why I have a paper towel over my mold, because I'm super messy. It's got big chunks and little chunks in it, but I'm going to put a little bit of resin in there just to kind of make it a paste. I'm going to put that aside. And then I'm going to set aside 2 5-ounce cups. I'm going to put piping bags in so you stick your hand inside. Go into the cup. Fold it over. So those 2 colors are going to be the white and a bluish purple. So I'm going to put maybe these are 3-ounce cups, so maybe 1.5 ounces in one for the color. I don't even need that much white either. So let me put just a little bit back. I usually want more of the white instead of the color. So I'm going to have a little more white, maybe 2 ounces and 1.5 ounces of the color. Move this out of the way. I'm going to use Blue Jasmine by Etsy Funshine Color Shop. It's kind of a periwinkle purpley blue. This is about the size of my finger, and I put maybe half of that spoon. It's really pretty. 2 drops of lavender by Bray Reese. Alcohol ink. That really changed the color. I like to put alcohol ink in with my micas or pigments. Okay, so this one I'm going to use, which I don't use often, Armor Art White Epoxy Pigment. I haven't used it in quite a while. Got to get it going. And so I just kind of squeezed a blob because it doesn't come out in drops. It's kind of thickish. So let me see what that looks like. It's a little bit on the transparent side. I'm going to add a little bit more resin. Still 2.5 ounces. Want a little bit more. I'll put some white alcohol ink in it. About 5-6 drops. Been 7 minutes on the stopwatch, just keeping an eye on it, and we've got plenty of time. Okay, so I'm going to use Counterculture Pearl Shimmer. This is kind of it's almost like a color shift. It's kind of pearlized and a little bit bluish purple. It's a really beautiful mica. One of my favorites of theirs. I'm going to open up this bag and put in a full spoonful into the white and about a half or so into the color. Let's see what comes. I don't know. Can you see the bluish cast it has? It is just it's such a pretty color. So that gives that color just even more of a shimmer to it. I don't know, it's just really gorgeous. And I put a little bit more resin in, so it's about a half a cup, which is probably an ounce and a half or so. So I put a lavender drop. I'm going to put 2 more. It looks purple coming out, but it really doesn't. It's not like the Pinata Purple, which is like super, super strong. The Bray Race Lavender is just really soft. So, gonna, I think, leave it there. So this Blue Jasmine Mica, some Pearl Shimmer from Counterculture, and some Lavender Alcohol Ink. Now, I'm gonna mix this Pearl Shimmer into the white. And let's just see what happens, if you can tell any difference. So I don't know if you can see, but there's a little bit of a pearlescent, opalescent kind of look to it from that Pearl Shimmer. I think I'm going to do one more little scoop. That was probably too much, but just don't ever go over 10% in whatever amount of resin you're mixing into. I don't want to do 10% more in the ratio of resin to mica. You gotta really mix it well to get that mica to disperse into the resin too. Sometimes it might have a little clump or two, and you just gotta keep stirring and mixing. So I don't know if you can see that kind of pearlescent look to it, and that's exactly what I want. So I've got this on a board that swivels, and I'm on top of a fabulous Counterculture mat, which you can put anything on it and it'll come off, resin, acrylic pours, whatever. But I do this so that sometimes I can turn it, and I also do it because if I want to lift this off and put it on a table and work on something else, I can. So it's kind of like a multi-purpose use, because you can't lift a silicone mold up when you've got resin in it. It'll destroy your design. So I need to put a stick. I'm going to pour about 1 ounce into each of the coaster molds. They hold 2 ounces, so I'm going to go about halfway in each mold. My plan is to come back in about 5 hours and put a final background layer. We'll turn it over, and the other side will be the pretty side. So I'm going to clean this cup out, this measuring cup. Otherwise, I would just turn it upside down on the mat and let the resin kind of just drift out. You can just let it cure, and it'll pop right out of your flexible plastic container. But since I have to use it again in about 5 hours, it won't be cured enough really. So I'm gonna clean that out at the end of doing this, and I'll put it aside and show you that. So this mold is about halfway filled up, and I don't have to fill it all the way to the brim with the second layer either. but I will, when I turn it over, it'll be a little bit duller than I like it to be. So I'll also set the knobs in the final top coat, and that will be after I've turned it over and put a fast set resin on top to do the top coat. So that'll be the third step. It sounds like a lot, but you can get it done in really a 24-hour period, so it's not a bad deal. So I'm just going to go around and get some of the bubbles that are on the edges here. Get them to kind of rise up. We are at 17 minutes. We still have lots of time. You also want to check your cups occasionally and feel the warmth of it. And if it's starting to get like really warm fast, then you know you got to really work quicker. But right now it's still not very warm, and we don't want to put it into the piping bags until right before we're ready to pipe it, because you want to be able to stir it one final time and all that. And then, you know, I've got this little bit of a paste here. I want it to be really kind of pasty and thick. Less chances of it dispersing out. And you just keep an eye on your resin in the meanwhile. And I'm going to come back at probably around 25 minutes. Okay, I'm filling the cup and it is starting to feel a little bit warm. So I'm going to go ahead and transfer these to the piping bag. So you just basically pour it in. Let it shift down. I can't talk while I'm doing this because I know it's loud. Squeeze the air out, push down and squeeze the air out, and twist. And it's important when you're holding these bags to get that crunched in your hand, otherwise it'll drape into the resin. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put some glitter in the middle, and less is more. Because often it will spread, and just make sure you're pretty centered on that. It's 28 minutes, and if it's real hot, then you know you've waited too long. I'm going to take the white first, cut off the tip, and you can kind of try it on the side somewhere just to make sure, you know, you can pipe it out. And just make sure it's the right size. Sometimes you get it too small and it makes it really hard. So I'm going to just kind of do squiggles. Kind of want it very organic. And then I'm going to go over. I'm just going to do spirals for the coaster. It doesn't hurt to just switch things up every so often and try something different. When you get to where you feel like you don't have much, just squeeze it down. Okay, I think I'm gonna do one more here. And the white, still have some. Then I'm going to take my stick and use a paper towel. And I'm just going to drag in, wipe, kind of randomly. I'm not scraping the bottom of the tray, I'm just kind of softly skimming the surface of the colored resins. So kind of the thinner your resin is, actually the more successful the dimensional fill kind of looks. That's the interesting part about it. Heat gun kind of promotes the movement, and with every resin project, your mold, no matter what your shape, it's going to all go towards the center, whether it's a square or an oval or a round, or it doesn't matter what shape, it's going to go towards the center. It looks pretty good about not blobbing. Sometimes when you're going big and you put more of a heavier line, it'll blob and sink down to the bottom really fast. So the whole point of waiting to that 25 to 30 minute mark with medium viscosity is you'll have better chances of it not blobbing on you. So this is pretty soft and simple, and then the background layer, I'm going to decide if I want to do glitter or sparkle or a deeper background or what. I'm going to kind of wait and see. After about 5 hours or so, I can lift it up and kind of look under it to see what it looks like, and that'll kind of give me a clue how I want to handle it. So I am going to cover this. And then I'm going to show you how I clean out my cup when I'm going to use it again within like 5 hours or so. I'll spritz a little alcohol in it and just start cleaning it out with a couple of paper towels. And it's messy at first. I kind of turn the paper towel over, get a couple of swipes out of it. I'll take another paper towel, spray in there really good. And each time, so usually it takes 2 or 3 times, each time you do this, it'll get more clean and more clean. And don't forget the outside edges too, because you get drips, or I get drips all the time. So one last swipe, and when it's really slick and it feels nice and slick, then you know you've gotten that sticky residue and so forth. And it's cleaned up and ready for the next round. So that will be ready for the bottom layer, which we'll put on after this is cured and it's not hot anymore and it's not tacky to the touch. And you can touch it and there's no fingerprint left or whatever. Then we'll put that layer. The other option is you could remove this and make a bowl out of it, because it's a 1/4 of an inch or less. But my plan is to make a tray from this. I'm in the mood to make a tray, I think, after 5 hours or so. Be back. Okay, so this one, it's kind of disappointing, but we're going to unmold it anyway, and then I'll decide what direction I want to take it. So, can you see the blue purpley shimmer? That is that pearl shimmer mica powder. And here's the other side, which it did blob. The white blobbed on me, and I'm kind of surprised because it didn't look like it was going to. Let me take out one of the coasters. The coasters did exactly what I wanted it to do, and that is just lovely. So there are those. That one went off center, but hey. So my question would be, do I want that, or do I want to mix that pearl shimmer color and make it a background? This is pretty on this side, this especially this here, but you can still see it, and you get more of an effect on this side for sure. So I'm gonna have to put a bottom coat, let it cure, and then I'll turn over and put a top coat and knobs. So multiple steps on this one. One other option is to go dark, and then it kind of makes it pop, and that is actually a good idea too. I could put not black maybe, but a deep purple or a deep blue. That would be quite lovely. So I'm going to think about it, and I'll be back. Okay, I have mixed maybe about 4 to 5 ounces of resin, medium viscosity. A lot of times I use fast set. This is going to be the bottom, so I want it to be nice and firm, and I'm just going to let it sit overnight. I do have a little ridge because this was the top side of my resin inside the mold, so it kind of will help me control the edges as far as the medium viscosity flowing over. A lot of times if it's flat, you know, because it is so thin compared to fast set, that it will just flow over the edge, and because I have this little ridge, it's going to help hold my resin there. So in this cup of resin, I'm going to put Lavender Fields dispersion color, but I'm just going to stick my stick in it. I do want it fairly opaque, so not transparent at all, but I'm going to try to do it sparingly, and that's a pretty good amount of color right there just for this amount of resin. Make sure you get it off your stick on the end too, to get that mixed in well. So I don't care if it's a tiny bit transparent, I just don't want it a lot transparent. Now this is Thunder Blue, and for some reason it is thicker than my Lavender Field, so I'm just going to put a little bit on the end of my stick, and let's see what happens here. I want it kind of a periwinkle, so I'm going to get a little bit more off of there. Let's go ahead and put some more in. So that made it more blue. So now I'm going to add 2 drops of purple alcohol ink. So that was Lavender Fields. This is Blue Thunder dispersion colors, so very, very little to tint your resin to where it's pretty much opaque. You don't pour in a bunch, you just put it on the tip of your stick and add it bit by bit. Okay, so now I'm going to add this mica pearl shimmer from Counterculture that I absolutely love. I'm going to put a spoonful in, just a little spoonful first, and see what it looks like. Ooh, that's pretty. So it's definitely still blue. It's kind of a color shift, but I want it. I'm going to add 1 more drop of purple. 2. I'll do 2. And then we know for sure it's not going to be blue. I'll put a little bit on each coaster. Take my silicone brush, spread it out. And this is just giving it a little bit of color underneath, but not a lot. If I have some extra resin, I may add it to it. Right now I'm just putting that hint of color on the bottom side. This has a little ridge too, so that helps with it not going over the edges. You can be pretty aggressive with it and it's not going to go over. Okay, so let's pour this. I can use that again after it cures. I'll be back. Okay, I have these knobs and they're bigger than usual, but I'm still going to use them because I love them. And I've mixed 5 ounces of fast set resin. So just going to pour this down. Super thick, and it gets thicker for every minute after you've mixed it. So I'm just bringing it out almost to the edge but not quite, and then I'll use my turntable and spin it to get it where I want it. So nothing on my hands. And go about right there and there. And then I'm going to just press firmly and wiggle. I'm going to watch it for a few minutes just to make sure it doesn't go anywhere, but it sets up in about 10 minutes or so. It gets really thick, so I'll be back to show the final results.